What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We're gonna jump right into the topic of today's video, and that is this Bauer 6-inch dual action random orbit polisher from Harbor Freight. So to start off, let's just go over some of the specs and then give you my thoughts on the build quality of this thing, and then we'll get into some of the features and how it runs and show you some footage of me putting it through its paces on the truck. So as I already stated, this is a dual action random orbit polisher, which means that the backing pad spins on a spindle here, and then there's a counterweight system in it that also makes it spin, which gives this thing a 20mm throw. What's nice about a 20mm throw is that it will cover a little bit more surface area, and it'll help you get through larger panels quicker, getting your job done faster. It does come with a 6-inch backing pad, which is nice. It feels like a good foam material with some rubber around the edges here, and it's also vented to help release some of the heat that you're creating or generating when you're working the paint on a vehicle. And it also comes with this yellow pad right here, which from the feel of it and the firmness of this, I would go ahead and say that this is meant for cutting and correcting. It's not a softer pad that you would want to use for like polishing or waxing. So they do add this pad in the box, but in all honesty, I would just kind of set this thing to the side, do yourself a favor, and get a higher quality pad from someone like Lake Country, Griots, Adams, Chemical Guys. There's a bunch of guys out there that have better quality pads than what you're gonna get in the box with this thing. And in fact, I was actually running the orange correcting pad from Griots. This polisher will put out 7.5 amps of constant power, and it'll spin from 2000 to 4600 RPM. And it's a nice budget-friendly polisher that actually offers some features that you'll find on higher-end machines. Only this one rings in right around $100. The body on this thing is made out of some nice durable plastic with glass reinforcements, and it has these nice rubber overlays on the grips and the handles, which is nice. And also, when they did these rubber overlays, they did them right. They didn't just lay it on top of the plastic. They actually shot it into the plastic. So there's holes in the plastic to where they shot the rubber overlay onto it, and the rubber went through the holes, locking it into the plastic so it just can't peel off in time the more you use the machine. The ergonomics of this thing are pretty darn good. The handles feel nice in the hand. It's easy to get a good grip on this handle up here. This one down here has nice contouring to fit into your hand nicely. It is a well-balanced machine that's easy to maneuver around the vehicle as you work. But how does this thing work? I gave this thing a run straight out of the box just to see how it felt and what it could do. And the one thing that I noticed was that it sounded kind of gritty. Other than that, it wasn't too bad for just pulling it out of the box, slapping a pad on it, and going to town. For a budget-friendly machine, I didn't notice it vibrating to the point that would annoy you or make it hard to work with. But that gritty sound that I was hearing got me wondering about the grease that came in this from the manufacturer. This thing is made in China, but I still couldn't help but to think about the grease in the machine and if there was enough of it, and if it was a good quality. And I was guessing that it probably wasn't going to be a good quality, and I was hoping that there was enough. But it had me curious enough to open this thing up and check it out. So here's some footage of that, and you guys are going to be able to learn right along with me on how this thing separates so that you can open it up and service it after you've had it and been working it for some time. I actually want to break this thing right down a little bit. This is a dual action. It does spin on a spindle, but then there's a counterweight in there to make it have that random orbit to it. So I do want to open this thing right up and check the grease, because I would have to imagine that it's probably some junk, no-name grease, and honestly, it's probably lacking grease. So I want to just pump my own good high-temp grease in there and make sure that it is well lubricated. And also, good quality grease in there may help cut down on any vibrations that the machine might put out. So let's go ahead and, I believe, take out this screw right here, and then this other one on the other side, and we should be able to pull this handle off of here and gain access to the head so that we can remove the backing plate and get right inside there. Now, one thing too that I want to point out is you can add a handle to this when you pull one of these screws out. If you want like a handle coming off the side, say like a handle off of your angle grinder or something like that, or if you have a rotary machine, you can go ahead and add that handle on here by removing one of those screws and then just screwing the handle in. I think it is the same thread pitch as any of those handles that would be on your angle grinders and whatnot. Once those screws are out, you should just be able to pull on this thing like that, and it comes right off. You do not need to press this little lock to remove the backing plate. All you need to do is support it with your hand and then break it loose. Then you can remove the backing plate. So you don't need to separate all this to swap out to like a 5-inch backing plate, or if you want to go with a smaller one, you can just support it with your hand, break it loose, swap it out. And I'm probably going to go ahead and get a 5-inch backing plate too and run some 5-inch pads on this, just so you can have slightly better control over the machine. It will help with stalling issues and whatnot, and also be able to work itself over the contours of the body panels a little bit easier, and allow the machine to get more of the power down through the pad to make it work better on the paint. But there's some of the goods. There's the counterweight right there. There's the main spindle that the backing plate attaches to. So this one just spins here, and then this counterweight is what gives you your random orbit. And that's how the machine works, really. And once you're at this stage is when you're gonna probably want to use this little lock on the backside so that you can gain access to the internals and grease this sucker up. There we go, guys. We've got the counterweight and the spindle removed now. Definitely got to get on it with some vice grip channel locks or something. And then it's tough to hold that lock in on the backside and get a good grip. So I just put my knee right up on the table here and pinned this sucker down and just gave it a good crank, and it came right off. But they do use some type of thread locker on this, so I may go ahead and put a little bit of blue thread locker when I put it back together after putting the grease in it. But now we can take these 4 screws out that are down in here to finish removing the head, and we should be able to gain access to everything that we need to grease up. Get on it and pull it straight up. But there's a good inside look at the Bauer 6-inch dual action random orbit polisher. There is your main drive gear there, and then your little pinion gear is down inside, which is attached to the motor and all the other fun stuff inside the body of the polisher here. But look at this grease. For real? I had a feeling that the grease would be garbage down inside here. I mean, this stuff looks like my piss after I drink a bunch of Mountain Dew. Pale yellow and thicker than hell. So there's no chance at me getting all this old stuff out of here, because it is packed right down inside all these little channels and stuff. So I'll just get out what I can, and then we'll load it up with as much new stuff as it'll take. That is just a real cheap grease right there. I mean, would you even consider that grease? Alright, time to load it up with some good stuff. Go ahead and just wipe this around the gear a little bit, and we should be all set to stick that thing back in place. Well, as you can see from that footage, there was a good amount of grease in there, but the quality of the grease didn't look good. It looked like the fat that's left over in the pan after you cook bacon or something like that. It just wasn't a good looking grease. So I ended up removing all that and adding my own better quality grease, a higher temp grease, so that I hopefully won't have to worry about this thing for a long time. And after I put that better quality high temp grease into it, I brought it right back outside and put it back to work on the truck. And what I noticed is it actually smoothed the machine out a little bit. It didn't vibrate a lot from the get-go straight out of the box, but I noticed after I put a better grease in it that it actually softened it up just a little bit, and it vibrated a little bit less, but that gritty sound was also gone, so it made me feel a little bit better about opening it up and putting better grease into it. And I know you're probably thinking, I shouldn't have to open up a tool straight out of the box and service it, but you also have to remember that this thing is a budget-friendly machine, so not every aspect of it is going to be top-notch. While we're on the topic of vibrations, though, I do want to let you guys know that you can somewhat fine-tune this machine to help balance it out and smooth out vibrations of it with the included Allen wrench that is right here in the machine. So you go ahead and pull that out, and there is a hole right up here in the front. Stick your Allen wrench in there and you rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise, and there's a little block in there that you're turning, and it's pushing it in or pulling it out, and that will help to kind of balance this thing and fine tune it to a comfort level that you are looking for while you're working on vehicles. So that's a nice little feature right there. But however, I'm not too thrilled with the design of how they have the Allen key held into this thing. Well, it looks like our little Allen wrench to remove our backing pad and all that has vibrated itself right out of the holder on this guy. I think it was a good thought process, but I think it was a poor design. So it's literally stored right up here in the head of the unit, but there's no good like force friction fit, I guess I would say. It does feel a little bit loose. I mean, it's not super loose, but it's not tight, let's say that. And there's nothing to really grab it and hold it in there to make sure that it's not just gonna fall out. So you're grabbing up here to support the machine or apply pressure as you're working, and then the machine is also vibrating. You could bump this thing with your hand or a finger, or it could just vibrate its way right out of here. And the last thing you want to happen is have this Allen key drop down the side of a vehicle that you're working on, whether it's your own or even worse, a customer's. That's a little bit counterproductive considering you're trying to correct the paint. You don't want to have this thing falling down it and scratching it up. So what I did was just took this thing right out and threw it to the side. I mean, we all have Allen wrenches in our toolboxes and stuff. We don't need to store this one in the machine. And if we need to use it to service this and pull off the backing pad, we can grab this out of our toolbox to open this up and service it, or just remove the pad. Maybe you want to change the backing pad to a smaller one, like a 5-inch or something. So I would recommend not letting this thing sit in the machine as you're working. And as long as we're on the topic of things that suck, I will say that the trigger lock right here also sucks. You really have to press that thing in pretty hard and fully depress it too in order for it to lock the trigger. Let's just take a look at that real quick. It's a little bit uncomfortable to try and get your thumb. I almost have to push it with the side of my thumb right here, and it's just kind of a little uncomfortable because it goes in a little bit further than this little housing that the button is resting in, and it just makes it awkward to press that in there and lock the trigger so that you can release your fingers off of it, and then you don't get a hand cramp from holding the trigger while you're working the whole time. But the trigger lock is also to help you maintain your speed and just make things more comfortable for you as you work. So I would have liked to, I guess, seen this be a little bit easier to press in and lock this trigger down. Like a nice soft click button would be perfect, but this one, just a little bit awkward. And speaking of things that suck in this area, this little speed dial right here, now you got the speed control down here, right where your thumb is, which is nice. But the one thing that I, again, am gonna say I don't like about this machine is that this thing has no tactile feel. There's no clicks or anything to it, so you can't count the number of clicks and tell what speed you're in. You just basically have to listen to the machine to get a feel for how fast it's going and to know what speed you're in. But this thing just rotates smooth as can be. No clicks or anything to let you know if you're in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, which is the highest speed that it can go to. But we're going to go down to 1 right now just to start spreading the compound out, and then I'm going to ramp it up to about 5, and then we'll work the compound on the door. So it would be nice to see this speed dial have some clicks to it so you can kind of count the clicks and know if you're in 4, 5, 6, whatever. But those are my 3 biggest complaints with it. The way that the Allen wrench is stored in the head of the unit, the lock button here for the trigger, and then this speed dial switch. Other than that, I think that this thing for the money is a nice little machine, and it's pretty darn comfortable. It feels good, and it did a nice job on the truck for the short time that I was using it to make the video. The trigger lock might be a little bit awkward to press in, but the trigger itself is very easy to get to and very comfortable. The way that this handle is contoured and just fits right into your palm like that nicely, and then the trigger is right there, nice and easy to press in with a nice little click, so that's nice. And it also has a soft start feature, which is cool. It doesn't just turn on full speed and throw your polish or your compound all over the vehicle. It's nice to have that soft start and let it ramp up to speed. I've always liked soft start features, especially on things like our saws at work and whatnot. It's just nice and usually a feature that you see on higher end tools. So it's cool that they included it on this one. And you can also combine that soft start with the adjustable speed control here and set it down to like speed level 1, so that when you first get your polish on the pad and you tap it out on the body panel, put this thing on speed 1, and then you got your soft start, you fire this thing up and kind of work your polish around a little bit, and then go ahead and crank this thing up to speed 4, 5, or 6 so you can get it moving, generate some heat, and really cut through those defects to get that finish that you're looking for. So you guys already saw a little bit on how to open up the head of this thing and be able to service it by removing these 2 plugs right here. And then you can also take these out and you can thread in a handle off any old angle grinder. So any angle grinder you have laying in the garage, or if you have a rotary polisher, you can steal the handle off that. Remove one of these plugs and go ahead and thread it in on either side so that you have another means of holding it. And then these other ones down here you can remove, and that gives you access to the brushes so that you can change those out and service those after you've had this thing for a while and been using it. You can go ahead and change those out if they need to be swapped. This thing has a nice SJ cord on it with a rubber jacket, which makes it nice because it is nice and flexible and it's easy to maneuver and work around as you're going around a vehicle and stuff. So that's nice. It's not all firm and stiff. And then it also has this nice PVC rubber sleeve coming out of the tail of the handle here as a guide, I guess, for a protector for the cord, so that it can't just bend over sharply or get kinked, damaging the wire inside. So I thought that that was a nice feature, and usually stuff that you see on higher end tools. But I think that's really all I have to say on this for right now. If you guys want to see me break this thing down and tear it open completely, remove everything inside so we can check out the brushes, the motors, the windings, everything, then show me by hitting that like button. If we can get 100 likes on this video, then I will go ahead and break this thing right down, open it right up, and we'll check out the build quality of everything inside. But I am going to wrap it up here, guys. So if you aren't subbed to the channel yet, then are you good, bro? Hit that button, turn it from red to gray, turn on the post notifications so you know as soon as the videos go live. If you could hit that thumbs up button, I would greatly appreciate it, as it really helps the channel grow and gets those videos recommended to new people. Don't forget to check out the links down below in the video description to everyone helping out with content and with the 4th gen build. And I will see you guys again soon in the next video. Peace.